Yes, on to our biggest story of the day. In fact, one of the biggest stories that we'll be talking about in detail at Nation tonight. Pollution in India is a silent epidemic, and we truly are becoming a Vishwa Guru in this category. 9 of the top 10 most polluted cities in the world are in India. 42 cities in the top 50 are in India. 83 cities in the top 100 worst polluted cities in the world are in India. Sounds shocking, doesn't it? I'm not even making up these numbers. This is the data as per the Air Quality Global Ranking of Cities for 2023 as per Swiss firm IQ Air. Now, you would assume that with these numbers, we would be dealing with air pollution on a war footing. We would be doing everything that we can to ensure that pollution is brought under control. But guess what? As much as 80% of the funds collected by the Central Pollution Control Board to mitigate pollution in Delhi NCR hasn't even been utilized yet. Yes, this is the data that has come to light now, an absolute shocker. In fact, the CPCB themselves filed a report revealing that it had collected 777.69 crores in the form of environment protection charges and environmental compensation. Now, these were charges, these were amounts that were collected by the CPCB, and they were supposed to be spent for various activities to mitigate pollution. But only 20%, that is around 156 crore rupees, has been used. So clearly, a lot of money lying there, but none of it has been used pretty much. But why? Why are we sitting on massive funds instead of using it to fight pollution? Is this glaring insufficiency, or is this just gross negligence that we need to hold accountable, we need to hold the government accountable for? A lot to talk about, a lot to discuss for these shocking details that are coming to light, especially with the report that has been filed. And joining me on the broadcast are my guests, Bhavreen Kandhari, who is an environmentalist and a member of My Right to Breathe. Also joining me is Ronak Sutaria, who is the founder of Respirer Living Sciences. Appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. First, I'll start with Ms. Bhavreen. Help us understand what exactly do we make of this data, because time and again we are talking about how there's no money, there's not enough that the government is doing to mitigate pollution, to counter pollution. But from the data that we're getting right now, clearly there is money, but there's just not enough people, or maybe there's just not enough brains to act on it.
Yes, absolutely. You've said it all. And, it's ironical that many of us in all these shows, in the past shows, have even asked for that we need more funds and the allocation of funds must be done magnanimously, etc. And this is the state. It's taken 5 years for the National Clean Air Plan to actually, even come to the stage of saying that, yes, we have funds, but we didn't know how to use them. So it's really something very very sad. Whether the officials don't have the knowledge of how, which I think personally is the case of there are a lot of guidelines. Everything has been written, but the connection of actually working on these actions on the ground is something that lacks in the training, in the implementation of how to go about it. I wonder if many of us even know that whatever funds that have been used have also been used quite strangely for reasons like football grounds and or even drains and fountains. So that's not related to air pollution. So this clearly points out that there is a really strict need or an urgent need to actually bring in a kind of a training, serious training, bring in all the stakeholders, which means the experts, the civil society, who is always there trying to protect and bring in various solutions to mitigate this air pollution. An ordinary citizen like myself, we are actually struggling to save that one tree throughout throughout the years that we are fighting in courts to even protect one single tree, or even work on various issues like we've been asking for umpteen number of years to convert the crematoriums, bring more electric crematoriums, CNG. I mean, these are things that are you have the money, but it's not happening. or even everything for
Right.
that. We have a
Right.
waste management, disaster right now in the name of, meeting. So various issues that, obviously I can go on and on. And of course, Ronak is the expert here also, who
Absolutely.
will, tell us exactly.
Absolutely. I'll take that point across, in fact, to Ronak there. Ronak, we are talking about money there, money just lying unused. We've got money being collected in various forms, in the form of charges, in the form of taxes that are collected. And from the data that has come out, clearly there only 20% being used. I mean, it's not like we've completely solved pollution. We don't know where to use the money, because every now and then there are a lot of marathons that are organized, a lot of citizen groups that are out there protesting and also bringing the entire situation to the light, bringing it, highlighting it, in fact, to the government as well. But clearly there's just not enough coordination between the citizen groups and the government, which in fact can come out with a formula to ensure that all of this amount which is lying there can at least be used.
So yeah, hi Ashish. Thanks for highlighting this issue. And I did read about the CPCB report which was filed to NGT. And the numbers are absolutely startling, like you said. I think the crux is pretty much in what you summarized: is there are not enough minds working on this issue. And the recent CPCB annual report, actually, I was reading the report earlier today. The sanction strength, the staff strength in CPCB is about 550 people. And I was looking at comparable numbers of other countries, of developed nations. A couple of the Western countries, the federal protection agencies or regulatory agencies have a staff strength of between 15,000 to 18,000 people to do a similar job as what the CPCB is doing. Of course, the budgets are not comparable. Those are developed nations, we are developing nations, but there is no lack of people in our country. I mean, if anything, we have a hugely large number of qualified
But
people
Ronak, you're
available
talking
to
about,
work.
sorry to interrupt you there. Ronak, sorry to interrupt you there. You're talking about how the budgets are not comparable, how, of course, they have larger strength, but also let's look at the demography. Let's look at the population here. There might be not,
Absolutely.
the budget might be less, but look at the population. I mean, we really need to find a way, and it's not even like we don't have money right now. From what the data that we have right now, there's money. There are people that are battling this issue. There are, of course, solutions that need to be found, but people who have the money, who are in position of power, just don't want to do it, and that's the most
So,
shocking part.
actually, yes, absolutely. I think you are pretty spot on. I think I was just going to highlight a systemic issue here. CPCB's capacity to absorb funds
Right,
is
go
about
ahead.
100 crores a year. You look at their annual budget, and it is about 100 crores. Now, the EPC and the environmental compensation charges, those are over and above their annual budget, what is available to them. Now, the two charges are 750 crores, 770 crores, actually, as the report pointed out. Now, the ability for the agency, so I'm actually going to really call out uh, the I mean, the organization, the entity here, because this is absolutely a dereliction of duty, of not spending these funds. These funds have been collected, they need to be disbursed in a timely manner. And this winter, there was a huge population which suffered the brunt of pollution. And environmental compensation, as the name suggests, needs to be compensated to the people who have suffered the pollution. So, in fact, I think one of the things I wanted to highlight on the show is literally the name of these two charges, the environmental compensation and the environmental protection charges, which amounts to 750, which is a massive fund. Just to give you a sense, Mumbai had access to about 250 crores as its budget for 18 million people. Delhi-NCR, the budget is about 3 times as much. So there is absolutely, it's a morally untenable position to not have spent this budget in a timely manner, to disburse it to the people who have suffered the brunt of this pollution season. So, and I saw the way this funds were designed to be spent on this study, that study, lab equipments. Fundamentally, these funds should have been directly disbursed to the people who have suffered pollution this season. There is a concept of direct
Right,
benefit
right.
transfer or a polluter pays principle. I think we have a complete failure in how disbursement is happening for these funds.
Absolutely. Ronak will get into the details of that, but I'll quickly take a point across from Bhavreen as well. Bhavreen, I was just looking at the detailed numbers. Now, Ronak really put out the data. He just highlighted the strength and also the failures, the systematic failures that we're talking about here. But Bhavreen, I was looking at the data closely, and from what I could gather, the Central Pollution Control Body, which is the CPCB, collected around 383 crore as environmental protection charge, which is one of the charges that we're talking about. What's most shocking is that they just spent 95.4 crore out of it on various mitigation measures that they need to take. Now put this in context to the smog tower that was built in Delhi, which cost over 20 crore, I believe 22 crores. It is just shocking the fact that just 95.4 crore you're spending on a region like Delhi-NCR, which is of course the capital of the world's most populous country. It's just shocking the amount of lackadaisical attitude that these authorities are showing.
Yeah, absolutely, Ashish. And also, talking of smog towers, now this is exactly a problem. Now you're choosing the blunders over the real actionable work that needs to be done. Everything has been, when they've, put the guideline together, everything has been said, like Ronak just said. It's all there. But this is clearly, I'll just further strengthen Ronak's words. It's clearly a contempt of court, and it should be, of course, NGT doesn't have contempt, but this needs to really be taken into contempt, because it is, like you said, costing the citizens their lives, their number of years that our children will live lesser. And there are no excuses for that. It's just ridiculous to know that, okay, it was one thing that you didn't have money, you had the money, and it was not used. So, one, that you are using the wrong solutions, and you wasted so many years, you wasted public money on a ridiculous, solution like a smog tower, and now you are, ignoring the more important, aspects, which are, like I said, it could be an electric crematoriums, it could be, your dust, your vehicular emissions, your policy that you're making, but you're not implementing, on the ground. There's, even if you're talking of construction dust, I think practically every colony in Delhi right now is, has broken roads and various, issues that are causing more dust in the city. So what is it that stops them from actually spending that money and using that to mitigate the pollution? So the only reason here, which I see, is there is no connection between the, the pollution board is supposed to actually delegate all this into the various state boards, or the who in turn will work with the ULBs, the urban local bodies. Now,
absolutely.
The urban local
Bhavreen,
bodies
you're talking
have no
about delegation
connection.
there,
no
and
idea how to
I'm
connect
sorry, I
this,
just don't
they
have
are
enough
the
time
ones
on
we
the
are
bulletin.
actually working.
I'll just take a concluding remark. Right, Bhavreen. Interesting point that you're making there of delegation and also the way the money has to be utilized. I'm afraid I'm running short of time on the bulletin.
Yeah.
On a concluding
yes,
note, Ronak, if you can just help us understand what more can the CPCB do? Because again, like you rightly mentioned, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ronak, this amount that we're talking about that's underutilized, it's not even part of the annual budget of the CPCB. It's outside that. This is the extra charges that they're getting from various taxes that are levied. So again, can there be any sort of a way that the CPCB can involve citizen groups and also other organizations that are already out there trying to find measures? At least can they get this particular amount to do what they can to ensure that that the solutions are found? Because clearly the smog towers, the smoke towers, or whatever they're building, they aren't working. They are shut in the first place. So again, can there be a sort of a solution that can be found by linking citizen groups with the CPCB?
I think so, absolutely. Ashish, the involvement of the community or the citizen is pretty essential, because they are really the eyes and ears on the ground. CPCB, even at 15,000, right now it's at a 500 staff strength. Even if it becomes 15,000, it's not going to be enough for the NCR region. Ultimately, they have to build a mechanism by which communities and citizens can report back issues, and they have these apps and they have the reporting things. But ultimately, the enforcement is where it's failing. And diligent enforcement, repeat offenders are not being taken to task. So there is a significant gap in the enforcement side of the issue. I will also highlight that the research and being on the cutting edge is something which CPCB is very, very behind. Honestly, we are literally remaining at the third world level in terms of the kind of technologies we are bringing in. And
Right.
so I would call out that there is not enough being done in science and innovation on that front. And ultimately, I would say, and I would reiterate the point that these funds need to reach the people who are suffering. Compensation needs to happen not
Right.
to industries and bureaucrats and all. Compensation needs to happen to people who are breathing 150 micrograms every day. How can health? So actually, the health CPCB needs to work with health foundations, the health departments, and make sure these funds are reaching people with respiratory ailments. Free medicines needs to be distributed. Health camps need to be undertaken out of these funds. So a lot can be done, should have been done, but
Absolutely.
unfortunately, it's not been done.
Right, Ronak, like you mentioned there, a lot can be done, should have been done, in fact, and especially with the fact that 80% of the money is lying there without being used. I mean, there, of course, is a lot that could have been done. One only hopes that the CPCB takes a cue from this. And again, it's a very important discussion that we'll keep on having, we'll keep highlighting on Mirror now. Appreciate you, Bhavreen, and also Ronak, for joining us on the broadcast with your insights and your suggestions, in fact, for the authorities who we hope are watching and will take a cue from this. That's it on the bulletin.